Welcome again, everyone. I would like to first introduce studyov for those who are not familiar with us. Studyov is a student club founded by students from Faculty of Architecture in Middle East Technical University. Studyov aims for design students to improve themselves both professionally and socially. From the first day that we were founded, we try to realize these aims through various face-to-face and online events and competitions, actually.
And in this session of art talks, we are excited to talk with Sovona Ghatak to her fun inspiration and experiences from the challenges she had through her progress. We would like to thank her for accepting our invitation and sparing her valuable time today, and also all of you for joining us.
So after the invaluable keynote by our guests, we will also have a chance to realize a Q&A session where you will be able to ask questions via raising your hand using the related button or via WhatsApp groups and also chat box. We will also be directing the written questions to Sovona Ghatak.
For those who are not familiar with Sovona Ghatak, I want to briefly mention who she is. Sovona Ghatak is an architect and artist based in New Delhi, India. She has an independent studio, Space and Fractures, where she is working worldwide. Her works include different scales and disciplines within art and architecture. She is also an incoming MArch candidate at Harvard University Graduate School of Design. She has received her Bachelor of Architecture degree with this distinction from MBA School of Planning and Architecture, GGSIPU, in 2018. And she has also worked with Nur in Mumbai, who is a well-known designer in architecture and urbanism as well. Now, we want to leave the floor to our guest. And if there's anything you would like to add about yourself, please do. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'll just share my screen now. And yeah, 1 minute. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
All of you? Okay, great. So yeah, I think I would just like to thank everyone for joining in, and a big thank you to Studio V for inviting me to this event and giving me this platform and, share my journey and work with you all. I think as designers, we want to be heard, understood, and platforms and conversations like these, they, make our creative community grow more strong. So I'm really excited, and it's my first international talk perhaps. So yeah, really excited to be here. I'll just quickly introduce myself to the listeners today, but it was a great introduction. So yeah, over the past 2 years, I have been working on my body of work and research called Space and Fractures. And I've been engaging with architects and designers globally, doing both collaboration and commission projects. Through my practice and research, what I'm basically trying to do is that I'm trying to investigate the intersection of art, architecture, and philosophy. And my primary goal is to sort of I'm more interested in the aesthetic part of architecture, its role and impact on a broader scale. And apart from this, I make abstract paintings as well, which I see as an extension of Space and Fractures. And I use acrylics and watercolors as my medium. And I ship these paintings and prints worldwide. I'll show you guys all about it more. And like you said, presently I'm an incoming Master of Architecture 2 candidate at Harvard GSD. So yeah, that's mostly about me. And so yeah, today I'm just here to share my journey, the beginning of Space and Fractures, how, I have been developing my body of work and following how, things followed while I was in the process of creating Space and Fractures. So as a person, I think, I have always been curious about, what is my niche in architecture? Like I was always trying to find that. And I always question myself how I will do things differently or, if I am given an opportunity. So in that terms, I feel that mostly people start there, all designers, artists. So my journey is not really as such different. And I do have a wide palette of liking. although you see the works that you see on Instagram or on my website, they are fluid, curvilinear, and complex in terms of morphology. But I do admire modernist and minimalist projects too. But I realized this recently, I would say that pursuing and admiring are two very different things. And when it comes to pursuing, I think I have an inclination towards these sorts of things that you see on the slide right now. So there have been multiple incidences and conversations and books that actually led to the path of space and fractures, and things just, started to take shape. Now, before I explain more about space and fractures, I just want to talk about the word, because it's a complex word, it's rare, and it's archaic. And I actually stumbled upon this word quite almost accidentally, I would say. So the word infractus is derived from a Latin word called infractus, which means bending. And the word infractus in itself means something that has a lot of bends, curves, and it is full of windings and turnings. So I think I always had an inclination, towards things that are complex, multi-layered, and narrative loaded. And when you see architecture, I just feel that it's all about these things, and I could just relate to the term and the kind of works that I do. But I have to talk about one of the times when all these things started, or this basic specific point. Then I think it has to be this, the abstract sketches that I used to make in my sketchbook. Earlier, I did not really know what exactly to do with them, because I've been doing it since a very long time before I even thought about doing work around space and fractures. So, but I always sort of had an idea in the back of my head that they were sort of suggestions of architecture or a space, or more into spatial explorations in that terms. So that is how things started. And these were the first initial sketches that I did for space and fractures. After that, I thought that, why not make an Instagram page under this name? And I think this was back in 2018 when I realized, and, I just realized this, that the architectural community in Instagram, it's very strong and vivid, because, Instagram has a very visual nature. That's how actually it is all about. And I'm a person who likes to express myself with photographs and all these things. I feel they are like a good memory device. Like photographs serve like that. So I just started uploading first of all sketches, and I always had these things in my head that how am I going to convert or translate these sketches into architectural forms or buildings, if I have to say. And so although I don't have a huge following as such, but people started to reach out, and they were intrigued by my work, and they wanted to know more about it. So when then I think what happened after that was, I started to convert the hand sketches that you see here into digital drawings. I used Rhino and Photoshop and AutoCAD for these. So this is what I produced earlier. And then I think one thing followed after the another. I started to convert these or translate these sketches into the models that you see. So I think earlier, if you see my works or even in my website, they were just random forms, and I started to later. I think I started to work on the context and started giving more meaning to it. And this is another project which I'll talk in some time. So basically I was just interested in converting these abstract sketches into masses or into architecture specifically. So this project is actually one of my favorite project, I can say. So what I did for this was that I took a same sketch that you see on the left, and I first modeled it in Maya, and this is what the result looks like. And then I took the same sketch and I modeled it in Rhino. So what I was trying to explore through this is how different softwares can have different aesthetic effect. You can start with one similar point, but when you use two different softwares, you get different results. So this is mostly about it. And these are some of the other projects which I did as well. Yeah. And this one is quite fairly recent one, which I did. So like I told that, I've been working on paintings as well, apart from the architecture stuff. So what I was trying to do in this painting was, when I started this, like it was about two main masses that were sort of interacting with each other. Like, I don't know whether you can see my mouse, but this is one of the mass and this is another. This is how actually I started the painting. And then I sort of translated this painting directly on Maya. And this is more like a conceptual skyscraper proposal that I thought about. So then later on, I started doing self-initiated projects and, added more meanings to it. And I started to take part in some competitions. This is one of a very dear project, and it's called Playground Phantasmagoria. And it's a project which is a manifestation of theater, art form, and audience, because the word phantasmagoria in itself, it sort of relates to a type of theater that used to happen in past. So it is conceived as a cultural project in an urban setting, and it hosts artists from various different backgrounds. And this playground sort of works in a certain way. So it has these 16 nodes that you see on the left, and each node has a name to it. And it sort of functions in a different way, in a way that every artist inhabits this space for some time. So there are 16 artists who are inhabiting these different nodes, 16 nodes, and they form a story either through their work or either like through their artworks. Sorry, I think there is am I audible?
Yes.
Okay.
I can hear you well.
Right. So where was I? So yeah, like basically these are the 16 nodes. And so this project basically it sort of tries to function as a political device or like a projective ground, which is working at an intersection of art, fiction, and culture. And this is just an exploded isometric that I did. So on the ground level, I'll just go back. Yeah, on the ground level, if you see, it's more like a glass box, and you have to use these staircases on the ground level to reach the actual playground. And these are the two pathways that link all the 16 nodes together. Yeah, and then there was this another project, which was, it's called Pavilion Quora, and it was a competition entry for Spring Amsterdam Pavilion. And the project is located in a place called a Wonder Park. It's a big garden there, and it's located between three major museums, one of which is dedicated to Van Gogh. And this park in general has many, like 2-3 sculptures by Picasso himself. So what I tried to do with this project was that this project actually acts as a sculpture and a reference point for the museums and in general the art district where it is located in. Yeah. Then coming back to the commissions, I think this is the point where, space and fractures took a different turn. So what happens is that one day an email arrives from this company called Lumagast, and it's based in San Diego, California. And they wanted me to design a concrete fruit tray cum sculpture, which was supposed to be 3D printed and CNC milled. And that led to, all the collaboration projects which followed after this. So this was my very first project, and it really encouraged me a lot at that moment, because I started to feel that space and fractures can be a starting point of something much bigger. So this is how the fruit tray looks like, and the iterations that I did for them. Then, as always, one thing followed after the another. There was this record label company called Detroit Underground. It's very famous. It's based in Los Angeles and Michigan. And they wanted me to work on an album cover for this very amazing artist called Syntax Erica. And then I did another album cover for some other artists too. Later, there was like another company called Ground 11 Architects. It's based in Pune, and they wanted me to do a digital art for their huge project. It was a real estate project, and this served as an introduction for the clients for their business pitch. So what you see right now is the digital art which I did for them. And lastly, there was like Lumacast again contacted me, and this time, it was for a slightly bigger project. So this, they wanted me to design a part of their office this time. And it was a concrete wall with a floating concrete table, which is what you see in the elevation. And the table weighed around 900 pounds or so. And the wall it must be around 20 feet by 8 feet. Yeah, something like that. So, it was, again, a very interesting project. And all these projects that I'm showing, although they are small in scale, but, when you build something from ground and when you get paid for doing what you love, I think it's another feeling in itself. So, yeah, and they all were contributing towards the growth of space and fractures. So in general, I was really happy about it. So, yeah, and this is just one 3D model which I did. And these are just, when they were executing the project, they still have to get the final photographs and videos. Now, I think I would like to end my presentation with something which was, again, a turning point in my life. And it was this invited competition by Bambito Art Gallery. It's based in Tuscany, Italy. And what they wanted me to do was create these 11 or 12 pieces of the sketches that I used to do. And yeah, this was the proposal image for the exhibition setup. So although I did not win the prize, so it was actually an artist residency program. For that, the competition was held for. So I did not get that. But what happened was that I started to think that, okay, the sketches that I do can, be paintings as well. So yeah, in that way, it was interesting. And that sort of gave birth to space and fractures paintings. So now, I'll just show you a few paintings that I've done. And actually what I'm trying to work on is to do 100 and fractures paintings. And I just recently crossed a mile of 25 paintings. I mean, it's small, but yeah, it's still something. So yeah, these are the paintings which I did with watercolor on paper. And these are some of them which are done with acrylics on canvas. So yeah, that's, mostly about me and space and fractures. And yeah, that's where my presentation ends. Okay.
Thank you so much. It was very informative about you and really showed.
I hope it was, and I hope my pace was not that fast.
No, not at all. And congratulations on your 25th fractures paintings.
Thank you so much. I'll just stop sharing my screen, right?
Yes.
One second.
Yes. And
Okay.
so if we saw that you have a very talented eye for these sort of things, these design intricate works, and I was wondering, how did your design journey begin? I mean, when did you realize this was your main thing?
Okay. So I said even in my presentation that I was just curious about finding my own niche, because I mean, I admire a lot of things. I have a wide palette of likings, like I said. So yeah, I mean, it was just, doing these sketches, and there were actually a lot of people who were very supportive as well. And they encouraged me to do more of what I do. And one thing led after the another, and then I ended up with this thing. But if you have to talk about in general my design journey and how I ended up in architecture, then it was actually very early. I was, I think, in 5th or 6th grade when I thought of pursuing architecture. So both of my parents, they are interior designers, and I used to go on site visits sometime after school with them. Although I did like the interiors, but I was always fascinated with the building or the exterior. And at that time, I did not know the word architect or architecture as such. So yeah, that's how one thing followed. Yeah.
Thank you.
So first of all, I also want to thank you for your really inspiring presentation. I think from the perspective of a designer, it's really inspiring to see how your sketches come to existence and how it creates various and very rich spaces. I'm really inspired of that, I can say. And I want to ask you that you have done various national and international collaboration and commission projects, as you did mention. And your prints are shipped worldwide. What do you attribute this success to? Because it's not easy for a designer to come up with such an international collaboration commission worldwide, I guess.
I think I have to give a huge thanks to Instagram as a platform, to be honest, because all the clients and everything, it was driven by that. But apart from that, I think it's just, the constant grind and, the drive to improve myself every single day. So yeah, it really takes a lot of work. And, I think I will get a little spiritual here, but, there is this aphorism which I really like it's sort of a brain tattoo for me, which says, it goes like, that the absence of evidence is not the evidence of absence. So, there are these like magical things which really happen to you. And I think I really like to believe it in that way or see my life in that way. So when you are, I think, constantly working on sort of worshiping towards something, think you attract a lot of things. So for me, it worked like that. But definitely, I'm so thankful to people who really had faith in me and, the people who reached out, like even you guys, see. So yeah, it just happens. And I think I'm very lucky in that sense. I consider myself very lucky like that. So yeah.
Thank you so much.
And with those things in mind, and you combine architecture and philosophy in your designs, and the outcome is very different from traditional art and architecture. So how do you get your inspiration from those absence and other stuff? Can you describe it more in a conceptual way, maybe?
First of all, I think you have gotten this idea that I'm a little obsessive about space and practice. So to be honest, everything inspires me, really. And you sort of have to create a sort of a routine or curate the things that you feed in your system in that sense. So there are a lot of books, and there are architects, there's a long list of architects who inspire me. Like there's Dwayne Euler, Mark Foster Gage, there is Zaha Hadid and Peter Eisenman. So many of them who inspire me in general. But yeah, then there are books, they are not just related to architecture, but even out of architecture, which has sort of helped me to reach where I am today. Although, the journey is very long and I literally have just started, I would say. But yeah, I think that's all for me.
So on the issue of your designs, I can ask you that how do you reflect existence and concept in your designs? Because we see lots of conceptual projects of yours, and we see that they come to existence also. So I'm really curious about how you manage to combine them and reflect them in every of your projects.
Mm-hmm. So, you asked about existence, right? Okay, so I have been fascinated by the term in itself because I find it really intriguing because the word in itself, it sort of circumscribes a lot of things, like an existence of a thing, reason, origin, and you don't really know the order. We really don't know what came first. So, and I really like these complex notions, and in general, when you think about the universe and how we are living, and in general, imagine the Mars we are on and it's just floating like that and we are still alive. So yeah, that is something which really interests me. And another thing is this whole idea of how we comprehend something, or when we are confronted with something that is foreign to us. It is how we comprehend something is influenced very much by our experiences, things that we have learned, unlearned, and all that is related to that. So in general, if you see, there is a lot, there's an immensity which is there in everything. So when I try, what I try to do is I try to translate all these notions into spatial exploration or architecture in general. But I would say like it's still a work in progress, and I haven't really reached that perfect translation of what I really want to do. I'm still on that process. But yeah, that's, I mean, at least that what my design tries to sort of convey in general, like in terms of forms that you see.
And one of your design notions is that it involves reliving the art and architecture from its limited interpretation. And as you said, the explorations and those such subjects should go beyond either or and embrace the idea of and both, as you put it on your webpage as well. And to elaborate this, what definite and limiting aspects and definitions those complex systems have that need unconfined further explanations?
So I think one of the limiting aspects that need to be unconfined is the notion of aesthetics in architecture. And it, it actually roots back to the times when, like, how aesthetics has generally been perceived throughout the history, like since the time of Plato, I would say. So aesthetic as a branch of philosophy has lagged a well-defined trajectory because in general it is very subjective in nature. And but when you start digging deeper, you realize that there is a lot more to it than just the visual beauty it is related to. Because when you talk about aesthetics, people relate it to the visual beauty of something or the physical beauty. But I'm still scratching the surface myself, and I've realized that there's actually a lot more to it. And another thing is that still during the time of Plato, and I think it still is continuing, I would say, that it is believed that aesthetics and fine arts are something which are reserved for the elite or high class society. And the working class society, they are not allowed to experience it or enjoy it. And if I must speak politically about it, I feel that everyone has the right to that aesthetic experience. I mean, it does not really belong to one particular part of society, and it is something to be shared by everyone. So there is this, emerging discipline called Neuro Aesthetics, and it focuses on the physical impact that aesthetics in general has on the brains, and you can track those or observe those through the neural activities happening inside us, right? So now these responses, they are not really related to factors or contextual factors like history or the cultural meaning of something. They are universal, like every human can feel it, and they have to specifically do with the aesthetics of something. So this, in general, it drives the human behavior and how we perceive things and how we experience something. So, and it has a broader implication. So I think that is one thing which we need to demystify, and I'm trying to work or research more on that. So yeah, that was a long answer.
No, it was very, very, informative, and what you said is, I think, is a gateway to understanding those complex systems in the means of exploring those very, let's say, aesthetics as in style, which is a very actually confined conceptual idea. And with that in mind, I would like to ask about those styles, because you're presenting with your works very different ideas, and also you're trying to avoid a type style by combining different architectural styles within their own and newly emerged contexts to explore those complex systems and maybe explain them. And what types of different methodologies of design do you combine when tackling such intricate problems?
So actually, my process in general for whatever I create, it's very fluid, and it goes back and forth from sketching to painting. And I would say even writing and reading is an important part of my process. So it's quite a rigorous process. And like I said, it's intuitive as well. But what I'm trying to work also is this idea of going beyond mediums. because I'm trying to, figure out this middle ground between the analog ways, like say sketching or hand drawings, and then there is the digital ways of doing things. So I try to like get that middle ground between these two things, because I feel that I like digital tools, but at the same time it really fascinates me, what a human mind can do, and the iterations that we in general can produce. Like if you actually try to make one sketch and then you try to replicate it, it's never the same. Like, actually there are artists who are very smart enough now who can do that, but in general, like generally speaking, I feel that there is so much that is in us. So yeah, like I said, that it's the process is very fluid for what I do.
I see.
So I can ask you a question related with this multidisciplinary and also the multidimensionality of your works. We see that you use the field of art and sketching and drawing, and also the field of architecture mostly. And I'm really curious about how do you integrate different disciplines into your designs, because they really exist in a coherence ground, I guess. How you manage to reflect the drawings into existence, into architecture, into the spatial organization. I'm curious about that.
So I think I mentioned that in the very beginning of my presentation, that I'm trying to work in the intersection of art, architecture, and philosophy. Like that is mostly what I'm interested in. But what I also feel is that when you are working or pursuing architecture specifically, it is a field that is driven not just by, say, design or architects in general, but like there is a lot of driving forces that are involved. Like there's politics and there is economy and history. So like when you just pursue architecture, you automatically are integrating all these different disciplines together. So yeah, that's mostly about it.
So it's kind of like you said in the beginning, a very personal accumulation of ideas and concepts, and you put it on your design. And also one of your main ideas is the fusion of the conscious and subconscious. And also you mentioned on your webpage that you think freehand drawing, intuitive ideation, and subjectivity are scarce in art and architecture world. And I think you're very on point on that with the digital means of producing something as well. And we believe that conscious is reasoning and have the evidence of material, and subconscious may or may not be reasoning. Nevertheless, it is in the result, but it's a more challenging or even impossible to unravel. So do you think that subconscious is a collective memory of genes and evolution, buried, morphed, and affected throughout the years, that affects the reasoning through a mechanism? Or do you find yourself referring to some notions such as chance or error factors about the subconscious? Or are these inexpressible aspects are completely something else?
That is actually a very amazing question, I would say. Like we can have a talk of 2-3 hours about it. But I think it's quite true that it's hard to, unravel the conscious, and there can be so many things that are linked to it, just like you said. So, but I feel that it is something that is ineffable. Like you really can't put a finger on it or, express it in words, I would say. And then, people like Noah Harari are challenging the notion of conscious and subconscious in itself, because, it hasn't been really proved whether these things exist or not. Because like I was reading his book, like there are 2 amazing books by him called Sapiens and Homo Deus, and they really stir your mind. And they're really interesting read. I would recommend everyone who is listening today to go and read that. So, but yeah, I think apart from that, I was reading this one article by Susan Sontag, and it's in the book called Aesthetic Theory by Mark Foster Gaze. And in that article, she writes about, how errors, fatigue, laziness, and like all these things contribute to the artworks of an artist. And I think I do agree to that. We don't really give much heed to these things or pay attention to these things, but they do have a role to play even in the works that we do. So yeah, I think that's mostly about it. But I think, what I would like to do is think more about this and maybe write a blog sometimes, like sometime in future, because it's really a very interesting question that you asked. So, yeah.
Thank you. Make sure to share it with us.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I would like to move on to your later works, which are the Amphitecturist paintings. And we can understand that you have a subject in your paintings, and how do you decide that mask, those edges of that subject, and how do you establish that color palette or give a name to the work? Do you think that these decisions also will give you any clues about the viewer after they decide they want to acquire a particular work of yours? And have you ever wondered if you were sharing very similar, very contradictory feelings about it when you had the chance to get some feedback from them?
Are you talking about contradictory feelings in terms of like,
different opinions?
So first of all, the paintings that I make, they are very intuitive, like the process in general, whatever I do. And I see these paintings also as my muse, because, and I think for me, it's too early to define boundaries for me right now. So that is something like, I have started to pursue this thing quite recently. So I've really let myself loose. And when I actually paint, I don't, I try not to confine myself in these boundaries. So, and I usually come up with the titles, if I have to say, it's not, I think, in the beginning or even in the middle. Like sometimes I come up with the title after 7 days of finishing the painting. So, but but my paintings, they invite dynamic contemplation, and they are very much open to different interpretations. So like, even if I have given a name to them and the color schemes that I choose, but it does not specifically relate to one definite thing. Like it's very much open-ended, I would say. So yeah.
So we see mainly the theme of tourism in your designs. We really, I'm personally inspired by it, and I really wonder how do you think the future will change the understanding of design? Because as design students, we really are curious about future, and I think you are really inspiring about the futuristic designs. So I really curious about your opinion on this question, the future of the design.
The future of the design, are you asking?
Yeah.
I think it's always, it's in constant flux and it keeps changing. That is the nature of design in general. So yeah, like I think when I was talking about aesthetics in architecture, I think that is going to change for sure very soon. But like in general, how the field of design and architecture is, it constantly evolves. So yeah, I don't know, like right now we are exploring about virtual reality and augmented reality. And I'm really interested all that we come across in future as well. So, but definitely like it's always going to be ever changing, and it's good, in that way. Like, yeah, that's how you explore things and come across new things. So, yeah.
Thank you for your answer. And I can lastly can ask you what the advice for design students, because we as design students are really inspired of your works, and I really want to hear about your advices for us, I guess.
I think I'm too young to give advice. Still not wise enough. But there are two things I would say which work for me. So I think one, like these are cliches, but when you actually pursue those things, it is really hard to pursue it. So first, I think would be to actually believe in yourself. Like really, keep working on your craft every single day, unapologetically, I would say. Just keep doing that and things keep building. I think I mean, to be honest, I haven't figured out everything and my life is not amazing or whatever if it looks like, I think, on Instagram or whatever. But yeah, just pursuing what you really like to do, that really helps you because you sort of connect to your deeper self in that way. One is that, and another thing, actually, I read this is a borrowed thought again by Michelle Obama, and it's about focusing on your own story and your authentic self, because that, like, really, if you think about, that is the only thing we have in this world. Like, we just have our own stories, and in general, how we see the world. Like, I mean, yeah. So sorry, I think yeah. So yeah, I think these are the two things: just believing in yourself and working on your own story, building it up for yourself and maybe for others. So that's all I think for me.
Thank you so much for your informative and very extensive talk. I think we can have questions from the audience if there is any.
While they're thinking some questions, I would like to really highlight that I think you're very right about what focusing on what we can do, our authenticity. Those things are seemingly very fundamental and very easy to think, but I mean, in the application, it's very, very implementation, very difficult. And one need to really try and experiment with themselves and their talents. And I think in your case, it is very much becoming something very valuable. And thank you for pursuing those design aspirations.
Thank you so much. But like, even in terms of like, when I make these designs, and in general, when I was working on space interactions, I did have a lot of questions in terms of the constructability or material optimization, because, like making something on a 3D software is absolutely different than actually executing something, right? So yeah, I hopefully learn about it in the next phase of my life when I'll be doing my master's. I mean, that is one of the reasons why I first of all thought to pursue it. So yeah, hopefully I learn how to actually build these things that I've been making on softwares and just posting about them.
So I guess there is some questions. First for Nisha Tanwar, if he or she wants to talk herself or himself, he can now unmute her or himself.
Yeah, okay. So Nisha asks, shall I go to the questions by myself or are you going to ask?
Okay, whatever you want, whatever you're comfortable.
So Nisha is asking, how did you handle criticism or feedback by teachers or others as a student? Good one. So, like as a student, I would say that in my college, we did not, I think my college did not have a specific guideline in terms of we had to do a modernist project or, like we did not get that sort of a guideline as such. So that, leaves with a lot of freedom, but definitely teachers were all the time questioning me and I had to be sort of 2-3 steps ahead of, say, for example, if they asked for the conceptual stage of a project, I had to be ready with the plans and elevations because I knew that's the next question which is going to come for me. But in terms of criticism and feedback, like I still do get, and I don't know whether you mean the constructive criticism. That always helps me to, develop my work. But apart from that, also, whatever comes my way, I try to channelize that energy in developing my work in general, be it good or bad. So yeah, it's a win-win situation both ways. So, okay. You recently wrote about object-oriented ontology. Sorry, I have to read it out. I forget. So Varun asks, you recently wrote about object-oriented ontology and emergence on your Instagram. Could you talk about its relationship to your work? So Varun, I think I actually finished that book quite recently, and I'm still figuring it out. I'm still researching about it. I just, I think the model that I posted about it was, yeah, it was sort of a visual translation of what Graham Herman talks about in his theory of object-oriented ontology. So for the listeners who don't know what object-oriented ontology, I'll just give a quick introduction about it. So so in this theory, Graham Herman, he talks about this idea of the qualities that are related to objects. And by objects, it is not something which is, you know, how it is generally perceived like physical objects, but, you know, it can be an event, a thought, an emotion, or an apple, whatever. Basically, all that exists in this universe, they are sort of given a similar significance to, like, yeah. So nothing, so there is no hierarchy as such. So it is a provocative theory, and I'm still working on it. Yeah, but I'll let you know more about it. I hope you get to see more of it in my upcoming works. Okay.
And
So,
also, somebody wants to ask a question personally.
okay.
You can go for it.
Personally,
So I think Mohammed Nawaz is trying to ask a question.
Can I go now?
yes, yes.
Am I
Please.
audible?
Yes, you are, Mohammed.
Hey, Sona. So it's a very inspiring talk. I was waiting for it for quite a long time, and I've been following you for I think a year now. And you are one of the driving forces in my thesis. I even did a contemporary museum for in terms of fluidity and aesthetic. And I've seen you throughout this year. I've seen you extensively reading and researching and exploring aesthetics in general. And since I'm just finishing my thesis, I'm just getting out of architecture college. I just wanted to know what are some of the driving principles when it comes to aesthetics in built environment. And if one wants to start exploring it, what would be some of the nodes where you can start?
I could actually recommend you three books, two, three books about it. So one, you should, I'll maybe write it in the chat as well later, or maybe I'll do it right now. So there is this book called Aesthetic Equals Politics. 1 second. By Mark Foster Gage. And there is this another one called Aesthetic Theory by him again. And also Object-Oriented Ontology by Graham Herman. So I think this is all that I've found as of now, and I'm still trying to find more about it. So yeah, that would be actually a nice starting point. Like these books could really help you, because I still haven't finished Aesthetic Equal Politics, but you read the first chapter and you'll be blown, I promise. So yeah. Okay.
I think there's more questions in chat box, like Zero asked, hi, I would like to ask how Sovona gets her inspiration and develop her concepts and ideas. Thank you.
I think I explained about it in the overall presentation. Zero, what is your name? I'm curious, but anyway. So maybe, we'll have a recording of, if you missed the presentation, I think we are going to have a recording of it, and I think you guys are going to post it on YouTube, right?
Yes,
So,
we'll drop the link in a bit.
So we'll be sharing the link.
Yes.
And okay, Vibhuti asks, it was an inspiring talk. Would like to know your views on aesthetics in architecture versus function in architecture, which is always a debate when it comes to fluidity. Very true. So, see, for me, I believe, so there is this notion that form follows function or function follows form. And I like to believe that, it always keeps oscillating between the two things. And as architects, I think that, we definitely need to cater to the user's requirements and all that the client wants. But at the same time, we also have a responsibility to push forward the boundaries of architecture. So yeah, I think that's what I feel about aesthetic and function in general. But yeah, I think getting that perfect balance definitely takes time. And I am not still wise enough because I haven't really built a project on my own. So I'll let you know, I think soon, when I am actually doing these things. Imagine, okay. Now Anurag, imagine making and imagining, image making and imagination both are different things. How would you define your art related to the above point? All philosophers here today in the chat. So, Anurag, I think you are for, I think we do talk on Instagram. Can I get back to you with this question? I'll just take a picture of this. I have to think and then I'll let you know. It's a good question. Okay, is there anything else? Are there any other questions?
I think not right now, but if there's any further questions, audience can also ask in chat box or personally if it's unmuting themselves.
Yeah, and of course, like you guys can reach me out on Instagram or through my website. And once again, like, thank you so much for joining in. Like, it gives me so much encouragement that people want to really listen because I have been honestly nervous about it. Like, I won't lie. So yeah, really, thank you so much for tuning in, and just reach out if you want to discuss about something else, and maybe talk more about it. I would love that.
We also want to really thank you for this extensive and very informative and also inspiring presentation. I myself very inspired by all of your presentations and your works. And also we want to host you in our campus in Turkey. If it's possible one day, we will really appreciate your presentation in our campus. Maybe one day.
I'm so happy to hear that. Like, I can't, like, I'm so excited already if that happens. So yeah, definitely consider me in already. I just want to explore different countries, so just hit me up.
Of course. And also we shared our YouTube link. The record of this presentation will be shared in our YouTube page, and you can watch it anytime.
And also thank you to our initiatives board for their endeavors, and all of our members for their participation. And lastly, I also want to thank you, Sovona, for being here.
So yeah, thanks a lot, guys. It was really great talking today. Made my day, actually. One of the milestones for me again. So yeah.
We are very honored to hear that from you, being one of your milestones. Thank you.